Hey guys, how's it going? Michael Troy here. Today we're looking at Wildcats #1 by Jim Lee. Um, can't wait to show it to you, so subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Hit that like button and let's get right into it. So I was totally down for this at the time. Jim Lee, I've been a fan of his since Jump, pretty much the beginning of his career at Marvel on Alpha Flight. I believe that was pretty much the beginning of his comic career. I don't recall any work, like, a lot of artists like got their start in independent markets and stuff, but I feel like Jim Lee's first work was Alpha Flight for Marvel, so I was there for that. I was there for Punisher, War General, and Wolverine, and X-Men, of course. Like, definitely the height of his career. And so he's just leaving X-Men to help co-found Image Comics and launch his own creator-owned superhero book, Wildcats. And I have to say, I do love Wildcats. I think they're pretty amazing. Very interesting here is that Zealot's costume is always like this bright red, and it looks almost pinkish here. Interesting. Anyway, I do love me some Wildcats. I think they're very, great classic superheroes. Very well designed. Jim Lee definitely put his stamp on comic books for the 90s and definitely, almost set the tone and created a huge wave of clones and sort of, much in the way that Jack Kirby set the tone for superhero comic books in the 60s. Jim Lee did that in the 90s. Like, his groundbreaking work on the X-Men is just unparalleled and just truly amazing. I mean, he stands next to the likes of, John Byrne and Art Adams and just, so many classic comic book artists. So I think his art was still pretty much thriving. I feel like when you get to the certain level of popularity that Jim Lee has, you have your detractors who a lot of people bemoan his art. But I think we, do that to a lot of our heroes and stuff. Like, I see John Byrne get beat up, for the way his faces look during certain periods. And, I have my own opinions too. I think, Jim Lee, I have to respect him because for as tight and as beautiful as this is, I mean, look how gorgeous this is with all the level of details. And you cannot say enough about Scott Williams' ink contributions. They've very much any power couple throughout history, Jim Lee and Scott Williams are definitely an artistic tour de force and work so well together. Jim Lee, co-creator, writer, penciler, Brandon Choi, co-creator, writer, Scott Williams, inker, Mike Heisler, letterer, Joe Rosas, colorist, Ruth Grice, editor, Digital Chameleon, separator, Malibu Comics, blah, blah. So, I feel like Jim Lee is still probably definitely trying to put as much as he put into, I mean, his X-Men was just so gorgeous and so amazing. Like, who did not love his X-Men? If you were collecting comics at the time, it was just you cannot wait till the new issue of Jim Lee's X-Men came out, which is very historical on a lot of levels. It sort of was the end of an era. It's the last arc that Chris Claremont wrote of the X-Men for a length of time. He would eventually return, but that was after his, 17-year uninterrupted run. And Jim Lee, would make, co-draw, and co-plot, I guess, the best-selling comic of all time, X-Men #1, with Chris Claremont, and then sort of just stay on for a little while and then leave to do Image Comics, and the rest, they say, is history. I do love, see, this is what I'm saying, and I was thinking about this when I did my episode on the Wildcats Adventures, which was the adaptation of the Wildcats cartoon. they lend them so, they're very, I feel like they're so commercial, and I feel like, I don't know, like, Wildstorm, you know, was bought by DC, and, I feel like they might dust these characters off, you know, and people bring this up to me, bless you for knowing, but, you know, I didn't follow it completely. I just feel like they're really great commercial characters. They're very, like, you know, I feel like comic books sort of got to this point where it was sort of hard to reinvent the wheel and come up with this new, you know, Superman sort of made and broke the mold at the same time. You know, it's like he's the first greatest superhero. I know there's like a couple more before him, arguably, historically, whatever. But I think he's the most, you know, pop culture recognizable, kind of, you know, first superhero. And he definitely set the tone with his powers and sort of his costume and his origin and his secret identity. So a lot of superheroes that would follow that, you know, are always going to be compared to that. And I think it's difficult, you know, to come up with original characters' names without being absurd or ridiculous. Even though superheroes are sort of absurd and ridiculous anymore. And it's funny, that's why I think shows like Peacemaker are successful, because they have such a sense of humor about it. They recognize how kind of wacky it is in a way. But I love it. You know what I mean? I mean, this is my life breath here. You know, I love superhero comic books. This is what I grew up on. I mean, just the fantasy, the suspension of disbelief, the ridiculous costumes. I mean, come on, Spartan looks amazing. I love Void. That's such a great Jim Lee ship there. The tech and it's just so beautiful. And just once again, look at this Scott Williams inks. Just like, the way they make metal, and it's just gorgeous. The reflective surfaces, and you know, Jim Lee, it's funny because even though he is largely responsible for ushering in the quote-unquote image look and, you know, the sort of pinup style and the poses and whatnot, he sort of walks the line as like one of the last great comic book storyteller, classic superhero artists, because he still does all the backgrounds and the storytelling and the multiple panels and stuff, you know what I mean, in addition to the money shots. Speaking of which, and oh my god, if you watch my channel, you know, and this is gorgeous, like this debut of Voodoo, and I love Voodoo. She, like, surprise, surprise, she's my favorite Wildcat. I did a great story with her in Darkest Image, one of the most amazing fan fictions out there that I was fortunate enough to contribute to. With my fellow cartoonist Brian Payne, we did this old lady voodoo story that is totally off the chain. He wrote and penciled it, I inked and colored it, and it is one of my favorite collaborations of my entire life, and it is so good. Google it, Darkest Image. Anyway, I love Voodoo. This is fantastic. This is the inevitable point in an Image book from the early 90s where you have to turn the book sideways to look at the big, gorgeous art. And I love her costume. I love that she's a stripper. I love that she's steeped in voodoo. I love her fur boots. I love her costume. I love just, I don't know. You can almost tell it's designed by Jim Lee. And this is just like classic Jim Lee at his best. He draws beautiful women. I like the way he draws women. A lot of people, I feel like one of the criticisms I've heard about Jim Lee is he like draws the same face all the time. And if that's the case, it's an amazing face, so keep it up. I don't know, I just love his art. I think it's great. I think he brought, you know, inarguably such a new aesthetic to comics that still resonates in a lot of ways today. You know, a lot of artists definitely owe their career to him. It's so funny to see this homage to, it's funny, at this point, it's an homage to Spawn, which was an homage to Frank Miller's you know, Dark Knight Returns, how he used the newscaster as like a lot for the storytelling in Dark Knight Returns. And so Todd McFarlane sort of emulated that with his newscaster character. And now you have her by Jim Lee in this Wildcats book. So I love that. I love when that's what I love about comic books. It's like you get the visual cues and you don't even read the words half the time. It's like there was this very like horrible thing. I want to feel, and I hope, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay, sorry, but I'm going to pin it on Dan DiDio. And just another reason not to like him, aside from ruining the DC universe, is he made some sort of weird blanket statement about how artists were kind of secondary and writers were the ones. Although that seems so strange because I feel like he was the one who headed the whole, like, letting artists write their own books. I don't know, but somebody said that, and so wrong. Like, art is everything when it comes to comic books, and there are so many comic books that are wordlessly written, if you will. Grendel 9, the first issue of the Jim Aparo, John Byrne, Batman book, first or third issue. That'd be edgy if it was first, but just a testament to show. Here we go again, turning the book sideways, guys. Oh my god, I feel like I'm looking at an old issue of Penthouse or Hustler. You just LOL'd when I said Penthouse and Hustler, didn't you? I hope you did. If you did, you're my audience. Cheers. Oh, and I just did the heavy metal sign. That's crazy. I love this here, too. This is, like, such a great... See, and this is why I'm saying, like, Jim Lee is kind of bridging the gap in a way, because you've got this great, like, sideways, amazing shot of Zealot. How cool is she? I love this character, too. I love the Wildcats. I think they're awesome, and I would love to see them return. And just when you didn't think they can get any greater, like, Jim Lee, like, oh my god, if Jim Lee leaves, what the hell are you gonna do? And then you have Alan Moore and Travis Charest take over. Like, okay. But I love this panel. I love this cutaway, how it's like this rounded panel. Such great characters. So much fun. Wildcats was definitely, I don't know, I was going to say one of the better books of their early Image, but they were all kind of great in their own way. Wetworks, love that. Savage Dragon, Shadowhawk, Spawn, I mean, Youngblood, all amazing. People lament the early 90s and Image Comics, but they're definitely making a comeback and sort of like getting their due at this point, and their back issues are rising. So if you see this in the dollar bin, nab it now while you can. Anyway, Wildcats #1 by Jim Lee. So amazing. Inks by Scott Williams. Love this book. Legendary, classic, epic. Thanks for watching. Subscribe to my channel. Hit that like button, and I'll bring you some more later.